The Silent Room, a terrifying true horror story. Introduction. When Siddharth moved into his new apartment, it felt like a dream come true. It was spacious, affordable, and located in a peaceful part of the city. The rent was suspiciously low, but he assumed it was because the building was old. The landlord had been oddly eager to get him to sign the lease, brushing off any questions about the previous tenants. "You won't have any issues," he had said, avoiding eye contact. Siddharth didn't press further. He had found the perfect place. At least that's what he thought. But some silences are not peaceful. Some silences whisper back. Unsettling signs. The first few nights in the apartment were uneventful, but slowly, strange things began happening. Every night, around midnight, the temperature inside the apartment would drop significantly. At first, Siddharth blamed it on poor insulation. Then, there were the whispers, soft, indistinct voices, like a conversation happening just out of earshot. He dismissed it as neighbors talking in the hallway, but one night, when the whispers seemed to be coming from inside his bedroom, he knew something was wrong. One evening, his neighbor, a middle-aged woman named Mrs. Kapoor, caught him outside his door. She looked nervous. "You should avoid the living room at night," she said in a hushed tone. Siddharth frowned. "Why?" Mrs. Kapoor hesitated. Then, shaking her head, she muttered, "Just keep your doors locked at midnight." It was an odd warning, but Siddharth wasn't the superstitious type. He brushed it off. That was his first mistake. The night everything changed. It happened exactly 1 week after moving in. Siddharth was working late on his laptop in the living room, sipping coffee. The clock struck midnight. At that exact moment, he felt a sudden wave of cold air wash over him. The hairs on his arms stood on end. Then, a faint giggle. It came from behind him. Slowly he turned. The room was dimly lit by his laptop screen. Nothing seemed out of place. Then, his phone vibrated. He picked it up. The screen displayed a notification. New message received. Confused, he unlocked the phone. But there was no new message. Just a blank screen. Then, his phone's keyboard started typing on its own. Letter by letter, a message appeared. "Leave now." His breath hitched. He turned the phone off and placed it face down on the table. It had to be a glitch. But then, drip, drip, drip. A sound, like water dripping onto the floor. He looked down. There were wet footprints on the floor, leading from the hallway directly to where he was sitting. And yet the apartment was empty. His heart pounded. He grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. The footprints were fresh. He slowly followed them, his own footsteps making no sound on the cold tiles. They stopped at the mirror in the hallway. For a moment, everything was still. Then, his reflection blinked. But Siddharth hadn't blinked. His blood ran cold. Then, without warning, the mirror shattered into pieces. A deafening silence followed. The air was heavy, charged with an unseen presence. He took a step back, his breath shallow. Then a voice whispered directly into his ear, "You shouldn't have stayed." The truth about the apartment. Siddharth didn't sleep that night. By morning, he had made up his mind to leave. Before packing, he decided to do some research on the apartment. What he found shook him to his core. Years ago, a woman named Anjali Mehta had lived in this very apartment. She was found dead in the living room, facing the hallway mirror. The official cause of death was listed as suicide, but neighbors believed otherwise. Rumors said she had been hearing whispers in the apartment. She had told her friends that something was watching her through the mirror. On the night of her death, the neighbors heard a piercing scream. When they found her, she had deep scratch marks on her neck, as if someone had strangled her, but the apartment had been locked from the inside. After her death, multiple tenants had moved in and left within weeks. Some claimed to see a shadow in the mirror. Others heard her whispers at night. Siddharth felt his stomach twist. He had almost ignored the warning signs. The final escape. Without wasting another second, Siddharth started packing. But as he zipped up his bag, the door slammed shut. The lights flickered violently. The whispers grew louder, surrounding him. Then the temperature plummeted. His breath turned to mist. Something was there. His phone screen lit up. Another message. "You can't leave." With sheer panic, he grabbed his bag, rushed to the door and yanked it open. As he stepped out, he felt a cold hand brush against his back. But he didn't turn around. He ran. By the time he reached the street, the lights in his apartment turned off on their own. The silence was suffocating. He left that night and never went back. The haunting continues. Weeks later, he checked online for any new tenants. No one had moved in yet, but one night, out of curiosity, he called his old landlord. "Has anyone rented the apartment?" There was a pause, then the landlord's voice, low and shaken. "No, but the lights turn on every night, as if someone is still living there." The silent room still watches. Siddharth never spoke about the experience again, but sometimes when he looks into a mirror, he sees something move, and he knows she never left. Do you believe in haunted mirrors? Would you dare to stay in that apartment for a night? Comment below. If you're brave enough, death